still, we're only going to the PMX, so should be quite a safe journey today. There's a dull lake, obviously, but I think that's to be expected. The fact that I'm absolutely shattered is another thing that I'm expecting. But at least I'm plodding on, which is a progression from sitting down at home all the time. And it's nice to get the feeling of your lungs working. I'm not too sure at the moment how it's going to stand up to any increase in work at the moment. It's very sore. You don't want to join in, do you? And the leg's all right. It's the rest of me that's complaining, yeah. Home is in sight. The big finish. Arrivederci.
I think we first met at Crystal Palace when I was an athlete myself, and I was training up there. It's quite funny, I was walking around one corner, he was walking around the other, and we literally bumped into each other.
Was it an instant attraction?
An instant attraction. I mean, it took Steve 4 years to ask me out. I think 4 years to ask somebody out would definitely make them a shy person.
You must have to do some interesting people, though, don't you, for this programme?
Well, all sorts, yeah.
And we've got a real scoop today, because in the hot seat is someone who would normally run a mile to get away from press interviews, and CBTV Channel 14 has actually managed to get him into Studio 3 for this week's press conference. He's one of the world's greatest ever athletes, some would say the greatest, and if you need another clue, here he is coming up to the tape at Oslo.
Relaxed too much, he looks too relaxed at this stage.
Yet he's a tenth of a second faster than Coe was at the 1500 metre mark. It's all down to this last 80 metres now, and he's staying with it, but he looks so relaxed. It's going to be desperately close. 3:49 the time to beat, and he's inside it. 3:48.8. Ovett takes the world record from his greatest rival Sebastian Coe.
Do you find it a strain to be competing against Sebastian Coe even when you're not actually racing with him?
It is a strain, because obviously in this country, when you have two world-class athletes, everybody wants to sort of pair them off and to choose the best out of either one or the other. So all the time in the press you read about when are we going to meet, and if we're going to meet, and is it going to be in this race or is it going to be in that race. So all the time you're continually sort of being pressurised by the media about the situation. But I think really it's not that much of a problem. We both get on with the job of running and enjoy it to the best of our abilities.
How do you feel about people saying that you're unfriendly to people like the press?
I think it's very difficult. You can't please all the people all the time, and the press tend to sort of change their attitudes with the wind, really. The 1 minute they're calling me a bad boy if I don't sort of go and give them interviews, and the next minute they're saying what a wonderful runner he is, and he's a real lad, you know, and all this sort of thing.
What did the Queen actually have to say to you?
Well, one of the things was that I was actually spotted jogging around Hyde Park this morning. I hope they didn't spot me when I was being overtaken by some of the joggers, but and then she asked me how my leg was coming along, and I told her.
See, I've fabricated over a period of years, toyed with the idea of imagery with the media by giving them certain things, not giving them other things. It's been fascinating, I must admit.
Just this way.
And so I've created an image which I, in many ways, are quite grateful for, really. It's this bad boy image, this tough, mean, arrogant person that you see on the television, you know, bites chickens' heads off, that sort of thing. And doesn't do a nice thing, and if he does, he regrets it for a week or so afterwards.
Bye.
Get one more picture, hand in hand with your wife, just walking at the camera. Can we just show your medal in the other hand?
Please, I mean...
It's just the last one we want, that's all.
Okay.
We just show it in the other hand. Put it over or something. That's it. And you just hold hands and walk at the camera. Tell you where. Come on, big smile. Thank you very much.
The only way that I could see of surviving, if I was going to be at athletics at the top level and still remain a fairly sane individual, i.e. not believing in the imagery which they were creating. And I had to detach myself from it, and I saw that at a very early age, 17, 18 really. And that's exactly what I did. I moved away from that sort of field, that sort of area where I could have been swallowed up and quite merrily taken on the bandwagon for about a year or so, 2 years, you know, and been dumped.
Watching Moscow while Steve was away, I had my first taste of the press. As soon as Steve did his ILY sign, the press just besieged our home. I was living with my parents then at the time, which didn't make it very easy for me at all, because they were ringing the bell sort of every quarter of an hour, and as soon as he crossed the finishing line, you know, the doorbell was there and they were there with champagne or whatever, and it was a very difficult situation for me, trying to keep everybody happy.
Okay, how much film have you got left?
One more kiss and then finish.
One more kiss. What do you think? Yeah, it's good.
On the cheek. That's the one.
Okay.
I don't bother about the media really. I just get on with living and enjoying myself, and that's the most important thing. I'm not really, when you say superstar image, I don't really believe there is any such thing as a superstar if the person doesn't want that.
Attitude towards races, you know, he's got a kind of killer instinct. I think all the other kind of world-class athletes are frightened of him. You know, a lot of them will run for second place when they know Steve's in the race. Even in his training, he can be ruthless. He won't let me miss a session, or get halfway through a session and I say, oh, I'm tired. I've got to finish the session with him. So he's ruthless in that aspect.
D to the A to the E minor to A, G back to D, D to the A to the E minor to A, G back to D.
I said to him, what are you doing for a run? And he says, well, nothing really. So he says to me, shall we go out and run together? I says, yeah, that'd be great. And since then, for about the last 8 or 9 years, we've just trained very much together.
You're quite strong. Yeah.
I enjoy running. I mean, that's a focal point. It's not the fundamental point of why I take part in the sport. I'm enjoying the challenge at the moment. I'm enjoying the challenge of what most people would consider improbable, i.e. to come back from an operation, a major operation on my leg, and still run respectably, or if not respectably, very well indeed.
When we first started to train together, I kind of thought I'd hold him back, but gradually over the years, you know, that hasn't been so. I think it's helped him. He wants someone who's reliable, who can go out training with him, you know, all types of weather, all times of the year. And I think this is what he needs. I mean, sometimes if I don't go out for a run, Steve won't go out for a run.